Welcome back to Orc in the Dungeon. I'd like to invite you for this next episode of my chamber series to join me in a little listening experiment. Try to establish how many instruments play in this 2-minute excerpt. Try to specify the order of entrances. Especially try to find out when the cello enters and which instrument plays the very first melodic line. So, how many instruments did you count? 4, 5, or maybe 6? And when did the cello enter? Well, in fact, there are only 3 instruments playing. And the main idea is presented by the cello, more precisely by the cello playing artificial harmonics. A most haunting choice of color. And believe me, terribly difficult to play. But don't worry, most of my students also don't get this right at their first listen. And for good reason, as this is by no means an obvious choice to start off a piece. The work we are dealing with today is of course Shostakovich's second piano trio Opus 67, one of the milestones of the entire chamber music literature, and perhaps the best piano trio ever written. Let's have a closer look at the score in order of appearance. Before we start, however, let's take notice that both stringed instruments start out by playing concertino. At the start, the violoncello takes the lead with a melody of eerie harmonics, seemingly located in its highest register, a register that would be regarded super high even on the violin, while the real violin takes over the melody on the G string, thus in its lowest register. It's all upside down, somehow unreal, and in any case a unique way of opening a piano trio. Harmonics had been of course known and employed by composers already in the past centuries, but always as a kind of extra, a special added color. Never before would a piece of music have started this way, with the cello playing for round about 2 minutes only and constantly harmonics, as if it were its default function. Now the piano enters, playing in octaves in a pretty low register. Basically, the piano plays for half of the piece in such octaves. It's as the concertino or play on G-string instructions on the violin, a recurring instrumentational strategy in the chamber music of Shostakovich. Some bars later, the cello withdraws for a moment, while the violin is soaring up to the E string, leaning into yet another new color, brighter, but due to the sordina, still somewhat subdued. We'll come back to the topic of string colors in another video. When the violoncello re-enters, it is located still high above the violin. The strings play now the melody in a parallel 10th mixtura, quite a strange color, and not the only parallelism in this piece. During a breathing pause, the instruments exchange roles, with the violin taking over the violoncello's high B, and the violoncello switching in turn for the first time to modo ordinario, and with that to its more common tenor register. After descending lines in both string instruments, which gets them now pretty close to each other, only the violin remains, while the cello fades out, the violin now pretty low again, back on the G string. The violoncello's prior withdrawal underlines the following entry, now finally in its proper sonorous bass baritone register. At rehearsal number 6, both string instruments withdraw into a background texture of repeated staccato notes, yet another new technique, a new articulation, a new color. At the same time, the piano takes over the main theme, again in quite a sparse Shostakovichovian 4 octaves apart doubling, with the strings filling in the middle register. Thus, in a way, one could argue that with understanding each new color as a separate instrument, more than the nominal 3 members of the piano trio are employed here. While the cello concertino harmonics are not only a remarkable, innovative choice of color, but also of structural and interpretatory significance to the whole piece. Let's listen to the whole thing again, this time also with Shostakovich at the piano. Well, I meant the trio version.
Obviously.
I could go on and on about this marvelous work, but we'd be sitting here up into the morning. Though I can promise you that we'll be returning to Shostakovich very soon. Until then, keep your ears open and stay tuned.